My question, like, what right do you have to invade the natural process of nature and to inject your curiosity and your ability to create new life?
I want one.
What's up, guys? It's Benny. The entire internet was set ablaze by the genetic re-engineering of a direwolf yesterday. This is an extinct species of wolf that's been gone for 10,000 years, although tons of fossil remains exist throughout North America. And they've been brought back to life by a company that went very public yesterday with this Time magazine article and with a number of prominent posts, including a post from Jurassic World saying, "We see no possible way this could go wrong," and Elon Musk saying, "Please make a miniature pet woolly mammoth." They're trying to reintroduce the woolly mammoth as well. Now, critics of this say, you didn't actually bring back the direwolf because no direwolf DNA was used. What you did was you mapped the direwolf DNA based on available samples, and then you genetically engineered a gray wolf's DNA in order to have the attributes of the direwolf, right? The phenotype. Remus and his kin are not direwolves, they're genetically engineered gray wolves. This means that while they have the defining features of the direwolves, most of their genome is still that of the modern gray wolf, rather than a complete direwolf. So it's a definition without a distinction. Depends on what you care about, right? Like, if it's an elephant that looks like a woolly mammoth because it has woolly hair all over it and giant tusks, is it a woolly mammoth or is it an elephant? Or is it some unholy creation of something in between? I'm not exactly certain. These raise major questions. You can see all the community notes here. They're modified gray wolves. They take on the traits of dire wolves, like their size. No ancient direwolf DNA was actually spliced into the gray wolf genome. Stop saying that it's a modified gray wolf. Please learn how de-extinction works. De-extinction means recreating animals that are biologically and ecologically similar, not exact replicas. So people are like yelling at each other on community notes and in the comments. Some of the comments are actually very exciting. Look at this. The Velociraptor first existed in over 10,000 years. How could this possibly go wrong? That's right. This is obviously something that has brought great interest to the entire internet. And on the exact same day, Joe Rogan drops a podcast with the man in charge of the actual company itself. This is what I thought was some of the more interesting parts of that podcast, specifically the explanation as to how and why they did this.
We'll probably eventually talk about is we brought in a lot of the teams, so many people that have been on your show that know how to do the rewilding the right way over time. Like,
Okay, so this is what we'll just get to it. You made a direwolf.
I didn't. Our team, our incredible team, made 3 direwolves so far.
Let's see the photos. Jamie, bust out some photos. Ladies and gentlemen, prepare yourself because this is truly crazy.
Yeah,
that's the pup.
Yeah, so this is so that's actually Romulus. We have 2 boys, Romulus and Remus, founders of Rome, and then we have Khaleesi, who's the new girl. So this is Romulus and Remus. So funny story about this. So Peter Jackson from Lord of the Rings,
Jamie.
Peter Jackson from Lord of the Rings was actually one of our investors, and he has this huge museum in Wellington that he's building for all these movie props. And he's like, I was sitting in Peter's house with he and his partner Fran, and I was like, I showed him the video of them howling. He started tearing up. And he goes, "This is the first time I've heard a direwolf or anyone's heard a direwolf in 10,000 years." He physically, emotionally got chills and started crying. And then he's like, "Well, I do have the throne." I was like, "What do you mean?" He goes, "I bought the throne last week at auction at a private auction for like Sotheby's or someone, right?" And so he did, and it just happened to be where the wolves were doing their vet checkup. Like, talk about cosmic coincidence, incredible, wow. Right? And so, what you don't see in this photo is you don't see the fact that we have American Humane Society there with 3 veterinary people. We had 6 people from our animal care.
When you
team.
say checkup, you don't vaccinate these little guys, do you?
They do because of viruses from that they can get from the soil. At 8 weeks, they do get basic virus. They do get basic vaccines.
Oh, were you concerned about that? I mean, you have this animal that you're just...
Yeah, so these are staying on, these are not going back into the wild, right?
Not yet.
Right now, they're on a 2,000-acre secure, expansive ecological preserve with 24/7 care. We have an animal hospital that we built.
Wow.
People always are like, "You guys raise so much money." And I was like, well, because we didn't just spend it on the labs. You have to spend it on the animal care, the facilities.
Yeah.
I just want to pause for a second and play you the clip that Peter Jackson cried over. This is the sound of the dire wolf, or the genetic recreation of it. Whatever you think of this, I thought that was quite cute. Okay, so let's
Let's see the photo of the actual grown ones because they're fucking nuts.
Yeah, so this is Ramos and Remus playing in the snow on the preserve when they are 3 months old.
So at 3 months, how big are they?
3 months, they were north of 45 pounds.
Wow.
So
look at that face. God, they're so beautiful.
oh, they just get like, as they've aged, they've just got more and more beautiful.
So let's go to the adults because the adults have crazy characteristics
so
that you were saying that you didn't even know.
We didn't know, right? And so we ended up getting a.
Is this a full grown one?
No, they're still 5 months old, so they're 80 pounds at 5 months. So wolves typically grow 12 to 14 months, so they're not full grown yet.
Wow. And how big is it already?
80 pounds, about 5.5 feet.
In the mane.
Yeah, and so a couple things about the wolves, James, if you go back, yeah. So we didn't know this, right? We knew that they were a Pleistocene wolf. We knew that they existed and went extinct about 12,000 years ago, when a lot of megafauna went extinct, like during kind of that younger Dryas kind of cooling period. They went extinct as well, right? And we knew all we know because all we have is we don't have frozen direwolves or frozen samples. We literally just know from skeletal remains that they were 20 to 25% larger. They were stockier. They probably weren't as fast based on kind of their body weight as a normal wolf would be. But we knew that they had thicker skulls, a larger cranium, and whatnot. And we assumed that they're and we did find this out in the genome, which is pretty cool, that they were white because there's like this misconception for a while that they were red because some scientists wanted to make a paper and assume that they were red so they get their paper.
Doesn't it make sense for natural selection? I mean, they're an Arctic hunting animal.
Yeah, and they have this beautiful, we didn't know that they have this beautiful like mane-like quality to them. And when they're babies, you saw a couple of pictures, their fur almost feels like polar bears. It's crazy.
Wow.
Is it
like polar bears and it's hollow or is it not?
It's not. It's like typical wolves, but it's incredibly thick. It grows in kind of these clumps, but then as they've grown in, they've started to get this kind of like mane to them, which is incredible.
The females as well?
Well, the female, she's only 6 weeks old, so it's too soon to tell. So if you keep going through a couple other photos, yeah, I mean they're just beautiful. And I mean, it's funny. Someone actually said they on our team was like they almost look like Shetland pony wolves at some point, right?
Right. They're so stocky.
They're stocky. They're thicker. They are. I mean, they're absolutely beautiful. So this is Khaleesi, who looks like a baby, and we nailed it. We named her.
Can we hear it? Let me hear her.
We named Khaleesi for George R. R. Martin, obviously. Who's an investor in Colossal.
Oh, wow. Aww. Nature's cute little murderers.
Well, everything in nature murders something, right?
Yeah.
Like we murder.
Well, cows murder grass.
Yeah. And people are now saying you can hear grass and other plants like scream now.
Yeah.
So,
yeah, they scream.
Yeah. So I guess we all are bad. So.
Life eats life. This
Yeah.
is. I mean, that's the reason why plants have chemicals to dissuade us from eating them. What are they eating there?
So they love to chew on horns in this state. So we have different phases of, we built a 145-page animal guide. These are actually different horns from different elk and other species that we're putting out there.
And they chew on them.
They just love
like
them.
a dog does.
Like a dog does, right?
So are you letting these animals kill things or are you feeding them?
So we're feeding them still. So they eat a combination of bison meat, horse meat, and
do you plan on letting them kill things
So we're
eventually?
just about to introduce carcasses to them. So giving them part of a carcass, letting them feed, building in that dynamic between the two brothers for now. And then and they are starting to exhibit some hunting behavior.
Are you going to let them hunt?
I mean, they are on a seemingly wild 2,000-acre preserve with just them, so they do have the ability to hunt on that preserve, but they're not doing it yet. They're starting to exhibit the original, the first inklings that it will trend toward that. But we want them to live. We want them, and we're going to probably make 2 or 3 more. We want a solid little social pack that we can monitor, that can live a seemingly wild life, that we can understand more about them.
Wow.
It's cool. But the other thing that's equally cool to it, going back to the Red Wolf story, can you...
Which is crazy to me that you have reignited these 10,000-year-old hunting genes.
Yeah.
That they're starting to
including size. We understand more about we looked at what genes made really a direwolf, like what was separated. And the beautiful thing for us is that we had a 13,000-year-old tooth and a 73,000-year-old skull, so we could actually understand the genetic distance. With that much genetic distance between them, we could actually understand what truly was fixed and conserved in the direwolf genome and what wasn't just population genomics, right? If you and I are 50,000 years apart, there's a lot of different mutations in that time period. But if we can then really say, okay, what made Ben and what made JoJo? Oh, here's the overlaps. It allowed us to really understand that, which is pretty awesome. And
it's just fascinating that the behavior characteristics are kind of baked into
They're
those
baked in,
genes,
yeah.
and they just were dormant for 10,000 years, and now these things are waking up.
And so
like,
I was in, because I bottle fed Romulus. And Romulus was partly raised with me. I could go out to the preserve. I'd check on him quite frequently. It's in the northern United States where we don't say where it is, but mainly because we're for not just the animal's health, but for human health. Ever since we launched the woolly mouse, we've had very excited people just show up at our labs are not open to the public, and we've had lots of people just show up wanting to see the mice. And so showing people too much of the preserve, we're always very.
So they're planning on de-extincting woolly mammoths, also Tasmanian lions, the dodo bird, and so on and so forth. What do you think about these kind of things? Maybe I'm too much of a normie. I think it's cool. I think it could have some very dangerous ramifications when applied to creatures that we can't control, or things that get wildly out of turn, like creating these animals for profit and then selling them off to sultans, right, in the desert. People that just want them for sport. It can turn very Jurassic Park very, very quickly. There's something else about this, what is seemingly a very neat breakthrough, like who wouldn't want the reintroduction of these species that have been gone for a long time? Who wouldn't want to see a woolly mammoth or a dodo bird? I certainly would. Apparently the dodo bird made for great eating. But there was something else that was very dark in the podcast that came out about the creation of superhumans using this exact same technology. Gene editing was at the heart of the conversation, according to Ben Lamb. He's the guy who's in charge of the company. China isn't just experimenting with it. They've already created genetically modified children. Oh my. Well, there you go. Gene-edited babies. Points to the now infamous case in 2018 when Chinese scientists announced that he had cloned human embryos, edited their genes to make them resistant to HIV. The news shocked the world. Widespread condemnation. He was sentenced to prison for violating scientific ethics. Well, does that really matter in the place that brought us COVID-19? He said there's a growing debate over whether some of the same embryos, which are edited and enhanced for intelligence, the science is inconclusive, but the intent is very real. He says that a Beijing Genetics Institute, as a key player in this effort, he claimed that during the COVID-19 pandemic, they offered free testing to all countries around the world in order to hoover up the global DNA harvest. We can do all the COVID testing for free. Just send us in your genetic data. My goodness. An investigation revealed that the company's prenatal tests taken by millions of women were being used to collect genetic data for the Chinese military without proper consent or oversight. Of course, you could make like super viruses that attack just certain genomes. You could kill off entire populations by doing this. This is actually the plot of the last James Bond film. Lamb alleges that BGI has publicly stated that their mission is to sequence as much of the global population as possible to search for genes tied to intelligence and act on these findings. So, is China genetically mutating humans and doing gene splicing, just like they did? COVID was created by genetic splicing, by splicing in to a natural coronavirus that is not infectious to humans, a spike protein to make it infectious to humans. So China's already doing this. Are they doing this now with human beings? That's the question. Here's the scariest part of the interview.
And this is where it gets weird. Like China, Russia,
it is getting weird. Like CRISPR and these genome engineering tools are outside of the bottle. They're out. It's like the genie out of the bottle, right? It's like it's out there. You can't put it back in. I think that more and more people in other countries are going to be doing things with these technologies for humans. That's why Colossal just said, we will never do anything for humans. If someone else wants to use our technologies for humans, we'll evaluate it.
But that gets so weird, right? Like the China story. Like, can you explain to people what they did? They said they were inoculating them from HIV, which is...
Yeah. They actually were engineering...
suspect.
They were engineering babies in editing their embryos to confer a resistance to HIV. Now, still to this day, so they were cloning them, and then they were genetically modifying them. And so they're doing lots of things there's a general moratorium in the world on some of these things around humans. Anything that's considered a germline edit. So anything that could be passed on to the next generation, right? So if you engineer something into the genome, the fear is, from a germline. So all your cells in your body are somatic cells, except for your like egg or sperm. Those are germ cells. So anything that could be affected into the germline, so that you pass it on to the next generation, that could be like, umbrella corporation type moment, right? So
Right.
we don't want that.
Well, the scary thing was they didn't just do that. They also edited something that would allow the child to have much higher intelligence.
Well, so that part's like that part's quoted under debate. There's people that say that happened. There's people that say it doesn't happen. If you look at BGI or Beijing Genomics Institute, right? They did this thing that, from a nefarious perspective, was brilliant. From a nefarious perspective, is also terrifying. During COVID, they're like, we'll do all the COVID testing for you for free. We'll do all this COVID testing for you for free. No worries. Just send us your data. We'll do it all for free. You just want to help the world, right? We'll work with the World Health Organization. Just send us all your samples from all your countries, everything. And publicly, the CEO of BGI has said, which is funded by the CCP, has said that they are looking at genes with humans. They are looking at what makes humans more intelligent. They don't shy away from this. This is not like some, conspiracy, like they're like, is it a Sasquatch or is it just a man in an ape suit? This is something that is very real. They are openly saying we are sequencing as much as we can of the world population, looking for genes for intelligence, and we will act on that. Like that's not a hidden thing. So that is the problem.
But they supposedly did with these children.
Supposedly,
how old are these kids now?
I mean, that would have. When did that happen? It was. Yeah, so they've been like 6 or 7.
Oh, and are they already winning chess championships?
Yeah, so
we should find out.
Yeah,
we should find out where these kids are probably in a lab somewhere with a headset on.
Yeah, I
teach them how to be psychic.
I don't know how public it's like. 'Cause it was also one of those weird things that was like, he's in trouble, he's going to jail.
Yeah,
and then he got out,
and then he's out.